My name is Stephanie Lucas. I'm the founder and CEO of The Annuity Consultant. I want to thank you all for taking the time to join us today. A little bit of background on the Heart-Centered Planning series before we get started. This series is all about really coming from a space where you are connecting with your clients on a soul level, where you are able to make unbiased recommendations because you are there to listen and really help them and guide them to what products might benefit them the most in the accumulation and the retirement phase. So unbiased recommendations coming from the heart is what we're going for with this series. Now, I do want to make a point that what we're talking about today and the entire series is not necessarily just for the insurance and financial space, although that's the area I work in. This applies to all people of all walks of life, no matter what you do. So this topic is definitely relevant to all people. And then, of course, we'll apply some of the things to the insurance and financial space because that's what we're really focused on. And so a couple housekeeping tips. While we're going through the presentation, we are going to take questions. So if anybody from the audience has questions, please put them in the chat box to the right. You can make it, send it to all or make it private. But Allison, who is the director of marketing, she will read the questions. She's usually in studio with me and writes them down and hands them to me, but she's in sunny San Diego with her family for the holidays. So we have her on. She's not on video, unfortunately, but she'll interrupt when needed to ask the questions that you guys have. So definitely keep coming. We will run about an hour. And if any questions don't get answered, we will certainly send them out via email with a copy of the webinar along with the guide that goes along with this webinar. So this series is an 8-piece series, and we talk about multiple behaviors and different ways of being that you can implement into your practice and into your life to really become your highest and greatest self. So this series is all about helping people to become the best version of who they are. And we have some really good suggestions, and all of the speakers that we've had so far are experts on each topic. And so as far as experts in topics, we wanted to have our lovely friend Amy McIlwain here today to talk about living your purpose. So Amy, I'm so thrilled to have you here with us.
You too, Stephanie.
This is going to be great. I'm super excited. So Amy is the VP of Financial Services at Merkle, a leading data-driven marketing agency. She has appeared on Fox, CBS, ABC, and NBC as a social media expert and delivers keynote presentations to financial services organizations around the world. She is a regular contributor to Investment News, The Wall Street Journal Online, Think Advisor, and in 2014, she was named one of the 24 most creative people in insurance. In addition, her book, The Social Advisor, Social Media Secrets of the Financial Industry, has been featured as a bestseller on Amazon. So welcome, Amy.
Thanks so much for having me, Steph. This is going to be a lot of fun. As you mentioned, I clearly speak at a lot of events, and but this is a first for me, really kind of talking about my purpose, and it's something that I really care about a lot, and I'm excited to share with people.
Yeah, me too. And really, today we are talking about living your purpose, and what does that really mean? So our definition of that is, it really means a lot of different things depending on who you talk to. To us, we define your purpose as your unique gift, talent, or offering you are meant to share with the world. So living your purpose means you're living life in a way that you view things from a perspective of what can I learn from this instead of why is this happening to me? It's striving to be different. It's taking a look at yourself first to show others around you how much better life can be with a few adjustments to your perspective and attitude. So really, that's what this series is all about, is making small adjustments that make very large changes in your life. And without further ado, we will go into our questions. And so to start, in your own words, Amy, How would you define what it means to live your purpose?
Yeah, so for me, this is when I had to kind of think about a little bit of really understanding my purpose. And for me, my purpose is to connect and inspire others. Whether it's connecting people, connecting ideas, um, but that's something that's at the very core of what I do. From my work in social media, which is all about connecting, to traveling and understanding different cultures and connecting different people I've met along the way, and then inspiring. I think that I see a lot of familiar faces on this webinar today, and I'm excited to join us. I'm excited to have you join us. But a big part of what I do too is, I live my life to the fullest, and I like to stay connected to that purpose. And if I'm ever in a situation where whether it be in career or personal life, where I'm not happy with where I'm at, I am aware of that and I make a change.
Yes,
And I try to, again, stick to that purpose. And, and by doing that and by showing up and demonstrating that, inspire others.
yes, yes. Well, like I was saying before we got started, you have inspired me multiple times in my life and in big ways. So, I mean, really with meditation, like introducing me to that changed everything in my life, you know? And without that suggestion, I wouldn't be who I am today. So, and then traveling, like all of these different things have really impacted me in a major way. And it's amazing how you probably didn't even realize how much it impacted me, but it's made my life so much better, you know?
And it's great to see that. And again, that goes back to that core of connecting and then inspiring. So, again, meditation, I kind of stumbled upon 10 years ago, and it was a huge game changer in my life. And when we talked, I noticed you were going through some of the same challenges that I was experiencing, as most entrepreneurs and business executives are experiencing. 100 things circling in your head all the time. How do you stay focused? How do you quiet that noise?
Yes,
And I was really lucky to kind of really find meditation in my life and how that helped me, and then connecting it to others and inspiring others to do the same
yeah,
when I see people having similar challenges.
yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate that for sure. So, how did you, in your own way, identify what your unique purpose was? Like, when did you have this realization that connecting and inspiring was what you're all about?
I think I kind of realized it about when I started my company, Financial Social Media. So I've had a bit of a unique background, from entrepreneur. I launched a business, Financial Social Media. That business was acquired. I took a little bit of sabbatical and traveled. Then I was recruited to lead the financial services vertical at a tech company, Hootsuite. So I was technology executive. And then I again was kind of feeling lost, so I took action and I left, and I went back to what centers me and what my passion is, and that's travel. So I took a year sabbatical to travel the world, and rediscover the things that were important to me. And now I'm back in the corporate space, and I'm excited to kind of learn and grow in my new role at Merkle. But
Yeah,
again, going back to that beginning of connecting and understanding that was my purpose, was what really drove me. And again, as business owners, or again, just in your own professional careers, you need to really think about that why, like what is driving you. And a
yeah,
big thing for me in launching Financial Social Media was the whole concept around this lack of financial education. I had a lot of friends that just didn't understand. I was very fortunate. I'd been selling in the financial services space for a little bit, so I had some knowledge and connections. But financial literacy, there's a huge gap. So I saw social media as a path for me to connect and it's at scale financial literacy, financial education to consumers through the channel of insurance agents and financial advisors. So again, at its very core, it was connecting and connecting these ideas. And being able to work through social media and the technology channels, I was able to achieve that at scale.
Yeah, and it's incredible. In fact, this entire series really is about building community and the importance of it. And so, when we talk about that, the building of the community is really building an ecosystem for your business and life to really flourish. So it's important. It really, really is.
Yeah,
So
I mean, and that's where I think, too, like your passion and your purpose need to go hand in hand. So, what are the things you're passionate about? And I would say throughout my life, my passions have kind of like waxed and waned and evolved, at different times, but making sure that they're aligned, I think is really key.
yeah, that really is. And does it feel good? You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest question. If you're not enjoying yourself, it's going to show. It's going to show in the quality of your work. It's going to show in the quality of your relationships. And it's going to show in the quality of your life. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you believe someone's purpose can change over time, or is it always consistent?
I do think it can change. Different stages of your life, it can be different things. For me, though, it has remained pretty consistent. That
Yeah.
whole concept of connecting and inspiring. And but again, I think it can vary for everyone on what their purpose is. But when you live your purpose and when you understand that and align that to your day-to-day activities and your business,
Yeah.
that's when you get in the zone, and you can really see that magic happen. Those
Yeah.
days when you just like crushing through your checklist and you're feeling really good about it. That's when you're aligned and
Yeah.
working towards your purpose.
Yeah, I know. And for me, I mean, I've been in this industry for 20 years, and I spent a lot of that time doing what everybody else was doing. And I'm like, why am I not feeling great about this? Why am I not as successful as so and so? And comparing myself with others, which is totally wrong. But until I really decided that this was my focus and this was what I needed to bring to the industry and educate people on this, in the heart-centered planning, did I find like my true purpose. It was like I knew it was here, I just didn't know what exactly. And now it's like, oh, there it is. So yeah, definitely I'm finally in alignment, which
Yeah,
feels really,
it is. And like just an example of this, I mean, even though I'm aware of my purpose, doesn't mean that I always am living towards it. I try to, and I try to
yeah,
catch myself when I'm misaligned. But
yeah,
even kind of starting this new position at Merkle, I am, just kind of in my head a lot, thinking about, well, this is what I need to do, and it needs to be perfect when I do it, and like thinking about these messages before I reach out to people. And then you kind of realize I just need to recenter and get back to myself. And I don't
yeah,
have to wait to reach out to these people with the perfect message at the perfect time. Like,
hmm,
let's just have a conversation, you
yeah,
know? And
yeah,
I went through LinkedIn yesterday and just kind of like did some outreach to some different people. And again, instead of like in my head before, I was like, well, I need to have an example or a case study of how I could help them or this or that. I was overcomplicating it. Just
yeah,
a simple, hey, how have you
yeah,
been?
yeah,
It's been a while. I'd love to catch up with you.
yeah, yeah.
So,
What's new with you? What is happening in life? Yeah, totally.
exactly.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, what are negative consequences that can result when you're not living in alignment with your purpose?
You'll be miserable. And I think that negativity carries through. So
Yeah,
if you're not in alignment, you'll kind of begrudgingly be, going through a routine, going through the day, but you're never really going to truly be happy with what you're doing. And again, it's the smallest change can have such an impactful difference. So
definitely.
really understanding, what that can be. And also you won't be as productive as you could be as well.
Right.
So once you're aligned, things just start to work and they click.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I've said this before, but since I have found mine and I've really stayed aware of things, I've been aging backwards because my health is better. Like I sleep better, you know, there are so many different things that are impacted by not being in alignment. So especially sleep. Sleep is important. So,
Absolutely. Well, and two, and again, I mean, it goes back to even some of those small tactics like meditation and things because
yeah.
sleep can get affected. I mean, how many times have you laid in bed and you've got a million things on your mind and just conversations going on with yourself, analyzing the day, planning tomorrow,
Mhm.
lists going on and on. But learning to quiet that, quiet
Yeah,
that noise.
that
Um,
monkey mind.
Exactly. And a lot of that can happen when you in alignment. It'll quiet those conversations
Yeah.
and help you get better rest.
Yes, definitely. So before we get on to our next question, let me ask Allison, do we have any questions so far from the audience?
I do, and I was about to interrupt you to tell you we're getting some awesome questions. And we had one that I want to bring up from Darlene, and she asks, if you're aware of your purpose and things just aren't happening, how do you handle that? Even if you stay positive, like how do you deal with that situation?
I think it's really kind of understanding the why behind your purpose. So, in making sure that is the best purpose for you. Is that truly your purpose? It took me a while to think about mine. So, at first I was thinking, oh, is traveling my purpose? But I'm like, no, traveling's not really a purpose. Like, so it kind of took me a while to think through what that purpose was. So
Yeah,
first, I would say just make sure you're in right alignment on what that purpose is. Um, and then really understand too, maybe some small steps you can take to get in alignment there. And look for different resources, books, articles, things like that, and understand what are some baby steps you can do every day to work towards being in that alignment. So
yeah,
maybe that's reaching out to two different people that you haven't spoken with in a while, or um, I guess it really just depends on what your purpose is. Steph, do you have any suggestions?
yeah. In fact, I spoke with an agent yesterday, who, by the way, said to tell you hi, Curtis Cloak. Do you know
Oh
this?
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So he was telling me about when he started doing what he's doing and how he really prayed on it. So connecting to his, the higher power, right? And
Mhm.
for me, mine came this heart-centered planning series idea and the direction I wanted to take my business, mine came in meditation. So again, connecting with that higher self or, source, whatever universe you want to call it, like that, sitting with it and, waiting for the answers to come. So I think that and journaling. I do a lot of journaling, especially when times are hard and things are frustrating, just writing that question out and then again just kind of putting whatever out on paper and seeing what flows. So I think those are a couple of things that I've done. Yeah.
And that also leads into another question that you kind of touched on, but this question is from Crystal, and she's asking, how would you suggest someone find their purpose? So someone who maybe doesn't know what that is, maybe what steps you took to be able to identify what that is for your life.
I think that was pretty similar to like Darlene's question, right? Like, or
Somewhat. I mean, again, so I kind of like was just recently kind of went through this exercise and thinking and defining that purpose, and it took me back to that connecting. But for me, it was kind of thinking through and even like writing down all the things you're passionate about. I mean, passion and purpose are so tightly connected. So
yeah,
think about what you're passionate about, what makes you happy, what brings you joy, these types of things. And then what's the common theme behind that? And
yeah.
that can help you find your purpose.
Yeah, and one other thing I would include as well would be, I love this industry and I love what this industry does for the people. And I was like, okay, what is missing? There's something that is not happening here that I feel we can possibly do something different. And again, it goes back to my purpose in creating the heart-centered planning series, right? It's something that it's not common in our industry, but I knew I had passion for the industry. I just didn't have my, what I wanted to do. So that really became like the way that I created this.
Yeah, so sit down, like just write out some thoughts on paper, some words, like a word cloud, and kind of what are the
Yeah,
common themes behind that? And that
yeah,
can help you kind of come into alignment there.
definitely. All right, let's do one more if you got it, and then we will move on to our next question.
I do have one more, but it's kind of a fun one that I want to save for a little later. So
Okay.
just hold tight.
Okay, cool. All right, awesome. So I know you touched a little bit on your history already, but if you could share a little bit more of a brief history of your life in corporate America and as an entrepreneur before you began to live your true purpose.
Yeah, so really kind of started my career in the B2B financial services space. So with selling print advertising in a B2B publication at the time it was called Senior Market Advisor.
Yeah.
So was kind of young in my 20s, still kind of figuring things out. And I saw this opportunity with the rise in digital and a decline in traditional media, this opportunity in social. So I started a digital agency called Financial Social Media, which was very scary at the time. Leaving, I was a top performer in sales and had a smooth career path, but I hit that point where I was no longer fulfilled, and I needed to make a change.
Mm-hmm.
And I scared my parents for sure. They're like, "Why are you quitting your job? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "But I'm not happy." So again, you need to follow what makes you happy. Follow your heart. And
Yeah.
so I launched this digital agency, Financial Social Media. And my goal with that initially was I wanted to be able to live and work anywhere in the world. Like I said, travel was my passion.
Yeah.
So, I was passionate about travel. I wanted this virtual work environment, which is ever so common today, but
Yes.
a decade ago,
Right.
this wasn't the thing. We weren't all locked down with COVID.
Right.
So I wanted to have that freedom of lifestyle, and also tying back to that, educating people on financial freedom and
Yeah.
gap of knowledge, and being able to do that through the channel of financial advisors, helping them connect. So it was a lot of just connecting people, connecting ideas, helping businesses, inspiring others, like through my travel, through my ability to take this leap. I know so many friends that have wanted to leave their jobs, but they like that safety net. And I think sometimes you just need to leap and the net will appear, So I ran Financial Social Media for 5 years, grew that business. And it got to the point as well, there were some inquiries about buying the business. And then also I reached a point where I was no longer really like happy and satisfied with what I was doing. And I knew I needed a change. And so a couple offers came around and I sold the business and took off to travel a little bit. Again, recenter. Travel is, where I just kind of, I learn, I explore, I meet other people. I love foreign cultures. And it really helps center me. And the opportunity came up then to join Hootsuite. And I look at compensation in 3 different ways. So many people only focus on the financial aspect of compensation, but I really look at it, there's 3 things. You're compensated in money, obviously, but you're also compensated in what you're learning, and you're compensated in who you're connecting to and the network you're building. So I look for a combination of all 3 of those, throughout my career.
Yeah.
And then joining Hootsuite was really interesting. I was really interested in the the technology world. So building connections, building relationships, understanding all of that. So that education and who I'm like, what I'm learning, who I'm meeting was really important to me.
Yeah.
And that was just a great opportunity. I traveled the world, was global spokesperson, led and developed their global practice in financial services. I was on the front page of the business section in the Madrid Times. I was on TV in Colombia. In Australia, I was in Sky Business News, Singapore. It was an incredible opportunity. Had a great experience there. But something that was always hanging over my head is had always wanted to take a year sabbatical and travel the world. And I didn't have that opportunity in between the acquisition of my business and Hootsuite. I had a month or two, which I think is actually when we went to Ecuador together, Stephanie.
Yes. And
So
actually, we were interviewing for Hootsuite while we were traveling. Yeah.
While we were in Ecuador, did Ecuador, and then I met my aunt, and we went to the Galapagos. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in the back of my mind, I'd always wanted that year sabbatical. Everyone thought I was crazy. They're like, Amy, you're at the height of your career. You're, in this global role. Like, why in the world would you leave this and go and travel? Because like for me, it's not just about money, like your life is about, what fulfills you and makes you happy. And this was always dragging in the back of my mind. And I did. A lot of people were like, "Oh, you're so brave. I can't believe you're leaving this position." My mom's like, "Are you ever gonna like get this back? Like you are living in New York. It was this great lifestyle." But again, you just have to trust your heart and follow what makes you happy. So I left and I spent a year exploring the world with my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband. And you learn a lot when you travel with someone for a year. But it just deepened our relationship. But even within that travel experience, I wanted some structure around it, some purpose. So within that trip, it wasn't just like randomly going to places. I wanted to focus on some core things. And those were, I wanted to focus on learning new things. And I wanted to focus on fitness and health. So I used those two things to kind of guide the trip. And the places we went were into the Himalayas, where we would do hiking. I wanted to expand on my scuba diving skills and do some wreck diving and different things like that. So learning new skills. We were in the Alps in Italy, where again we were doing a lot of hiking. I did a yoga and meditation retreat in India for a few weeks. So again, it was kind of with some loose structure around it. But that, again, helped me kind of stay focused and stay centered. When we initially took off, we started off in like the Philippines and then Vietnam. And I was feeling a little lost. And I was like, where are we going next? Like, I don't know. And then once I put that framework around that, that really helped ground me and helped give me focus and have purpose for the trip. And and things just work out when you follow your heart and follow your purpose. I got back to the US, thankfully, and then COVID happened a few months later. But yeah, and then I found, this next great career path at Merkle, which is a performance marketing agency, global brand. Phenomenal. It's the next learning opportunity. I'm looking at this as like my MBA in marketing. So again, looking at compensation through three ways. You're obviously compensated financially, but also the knowledge that I'm gaining here is just incredible. This is such a great company. So yeah, that's a little bit about my background.
Yeah, and in everything that you did, it seems that you did find, like we were talking about, there was something missing, right?
Yeah.
And you were like, all right, I'm going to pioneer this. So.
And I think it's about not being afraid to do that. And not being afraid to step out the norm. Like there are so many just like norms in society. You're supposed to do this and that and, go through this path and just work until you're, ready to retire. But then like you lack the energy that you had 20 years ago to go and like explore some of these things.
Yeah, to actually enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I want to add, we got an awesome comment from an audience member about what you just talked about. So this is from Cindy, who says, Amy, you met my husband in Ecuador and you inspired him to take a sabbatical year. If it wasn't because of it, we wouldn't have met and he wouldn't be as centered as he is now. He meditates and is slowly looking for ways to live his real purpose.
That's so cool.
Oh, Cindy, that's so sweet. That's awesome. I remember when meeting Brett and then seeing you two together is just phenomenal. And again, it's connecting. It's amazing how, people get connected.
Yeah. All right. Is that it, Allison, or do we have more?
Yes. I mean, we have our fun one, and I'll share it now. This one is from James, and he says he remembers conversation years ago where both of you shared what your spirit animal was. So, can you both share your spirit animal and maybe relate that to your purpose? Good one.
Well, I'll talk about mine. Mine's cat. And, you know, I think like the biggest part about them and what I relate to is the fact that they just do whatever they want to do, and they do not follow directions very well. And, you know, like I'm an entrepreneur and I don't do, you know, what the norm is in any aspect of my life. So, yeah, the cat, very independent.
Very independent. Well, mine is actually a type of a cat. So I initially thought that my spirit animal was a lion.
Okay.
But that's not the case. I at Burning Man a few years back did a spirit animal like meditation workshop and
Yes.
went through into kind of like a deep meditative state and found out that my spirit animal is in fact a cheetah.
Ah,
So again, a different kind of cat, but you know, it's interesting. So like when you kind of meditate and then your spirit animal kind of takes you on a journey. And this was at the point where I was like getting ready to leave Hootsuite or start at Hootsuite. I think I was getting ready to leave at Hootsuite. I couldn't decide. Oh, that's what it was. I reached the point with Hootsuite. They were going to relocate me to London, which was amazing. I was going to like, again, I was in this incredible global role and I just wasn't fulfilled. So my spirit animal, I asked him what my purpose was, and we went to like the top of this mountain together in our little meditative journey. And you know, I looked around the mountain, and as I looked around the mountain landscape, I was seeing Colorado, but then it shifted, and it was the Himalayas, and it was the Andes, and it was the Alps, and I was like, actually, I just got the chills like thinking about that. I went to all of those places because I was trying to decide. Like my big question was, what do I do? Do I stay in my career path and continue to climb the corporate ladder with Hootsuite, or do I follow my heart? And do I take a year sabbatical and travel? And my spirit animal helped me in that decision. I know it sounds pretty crazy, like in hindsight, but like I vividly remember this experience.
Yeah, I love that. So that must have been after we went to Burning Man together.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been a few times. I love the burn.
Yes. Well, hopefully someday you'll get back to it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe with a little one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
I actually have a question, for my own question, Amy. As somebody who's in marketing, and I know a lot of people on this call use social media for their business, and I was just wondering if you could switch gears a little bit to talk about how social media can help you live out your purpose for your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So social media is really about telling that story. So again, depending how you're using it, once you know your purpose, your social media can help you connect to other people that you want to be aligned with. So using it to connect with people on LinkedIn, Facebook groups are a great way, again, to get connected with like-minded people, to be inspired. Using it to amplify that message to your clients and prospects. Again, once you find that purpose, I mean, Stephani does a great job of it, of just kind of like talking about her life, sharing what matters to her, sharing her purpose, and really living through example. So social media gives you a place to really kind of share in that public stage. But with social media is a conversation. So there is a listening component and a talking component. Not everyone is comfortable talking and sharing and opening their lives to everyone, but that's where that listening component can come in. Again, listening to the needs of your clients on social media, following, connecting with them. When are their life events happening? Listening to other people that might share your purpose, that you might learn from. So there's different ways depending on what you're trying to achieve. Steph, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think that utilizing social media, especially with the with advisors and agents with their clients, it's a lot easier to connect with more people, right? So B2B is a little bit harder, I think. And I think that there is a ton of opportunity on both LinkedIn and on Facebook for the B2C market. I think that not oversharing is a good way to be. Not
Mhm.
sharing too personal of things, right? So there's like a fine line to walk too when it comes to social media. I think that that's probably one of the points I would really like to drive home is don't overshare.
Don't overshare, but also don't be afraid of sharing, because
Yeah,
like I 5, 10 years ago, like I wouldn't have been comfortable talking about Burning Man to other
sure.
people,
Yeah,
and I wouldn't even be. And like when I travel, like I love staying in luxury hotels where I'm paying like $500 a night, but I also love staying in hostels,
yeah,
which people are like, Amy, you're almost 40 years old. Why in the world would you stay in a hostel?
it's
Because
fun.
yeah,
It's
it
really fun.
serves a different need for me. It's not, but that's something that I wouldn't have been comfortable sharing a while ago.
Right.
But it's something that I'm comfortable opening up to because this is
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
And instead of trying to like live this projection, because that's a lot of times of what you see on social media is people are just
totally.
projecting this, version that they think others want to see. But
Right.
you'd be surprised when you are open and authentic and how it resonates with others.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. Like, when I first got sober, I didn't want to talk about my sobriety.
Yeah.
But now, it's a thing that like I definitely touch on. And when I have a conversation with somebody is when I go into the deep dive of what it was all about, what my sobriety, the whole process and everything, right? Um,
Mhm.
but no, I definitely agree. Opening up and sharing things and being vulnerable is certainly important. And yeah. And also, I appreciate you introducing me to hostels because because that was the whole thing is like I wanted to be in all the fancy places and I wanted to protect that. I didn't want people to think like I was broke and I had to stay in hostels. Now I'm like, oh my God, I do it because it's fun.
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
Choice.
it's a totally different travel experience and you are exposed to so much of a different way of life doing that. So yeah, it's definitely a great way to travel. If you haven't tried it, you should try it.
And it's a mix too, again, like there's um again, it's a choice, but
Yeah,
it's fun stuff. Like
and you can get your own private room. You don't have to sleep in like a bunk room, Well, that was a great transition because my next question was about social media and the importance of it. So I guess, do you have some quick tips for attendees on how social media can help them grow their business and live their purpose digitally?
yeah, everyone online in a virtual world. Your relationships are being driven online, and even more emphasis is put on social media. So it really goes back to kind of the basis of defining your personal brand, which ties into, again, that purpose. So with me, I often define mine as entrepreneur, social connector, and traveler. And those are three things that really kind of tie into my brand. The connector piece, tying in there. But I'm aware of, what I'm posting on social media and aligning it to kind of one of those three things. So
Sure.
I don't, just like take pictures of my food and post it on social media, unless I'm like having paella in Spain or something like that,
Sure.
because that ties into the travel piece. So you
Yeah.
really kind of want to think about what is that personal brand and how you can project that on social media, because you're not going to be meeting people in the same traditional ways face to face anymore. People are going to be looking at you online. They're going to be looking at your profiles. They're going to be
Mhm.
looking at your photo. They're going to be looking at the activities in your posts.
Yeah.
People do business with those they know, like, and trust. And can they see that when they look at your page? And because again, people are going to be wondering who you are, if they can trust you. And this is an industry that's like founded on trust and relationships. So being able to, show an authentic version of yourself, is really big.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. Let's see. Also, you're a best-selling author. So can you share with us a high-level synopsis of what attendees could find in your book, and was writing the book part of your purpose?
Writing the book was definitely part of my purpose. Again, to kind of connect ideas and people. It's called The Social Advisor, Social Media Secrets of the Financial Industry. And it was designed to help agents and advisors get started with social media. So it talks a lot about, again, building that personal brand, where to get started, the various social networks, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, where you should be, things like that, and give us some real kind of like basic building blocks and tips. But yet at the core of it, it's really, what is your personal brand? And you really need to define that personal brand, and then you seek out who are you trying to connect with, understand, where they are. Groups right now on Facebook are the hot spot to be. So
Yeah.
really posting and sharing, engaging in some of these groups. Again, not just talking about you, offer helpful information, like participate. The thing is, you can't just fake it. I think,
Right.
a lot when this started, like people were treating social media as just like a marketing tool, same as take your offline ad and put it online. But it's about relationships, engagement, and the agents and advisors that are seeing a lot of success on social media are the ones that are really incorporating it into their life. They're not just looking at it as a marketing tool. They're looking at it as a key communication tool where they're building relationships.
Yeah.
And I mean, let's think about it. Like, we're not going to the conferences this year. We're not going to all these places. So how do you stay connected to all those friends that, you have, that you're working with in the industry? And social media is a great place to do that, not just for industry connections, but for your clients and prospects as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually have an advisor that shared with me, he is sending out like health and wellness type tips to his clients. And he said like the open rate of these have gone up by four times. And he's getting appointments with people, like multiples a week, that are responding and wanting to have appointments with him. And it's because he's sharing things in a way that like he cares about them, and it's stuff that he himself is doing. It's not like, hey, I'm just going to put this out there and see what happens. They're things that he's like, hey, I'm doing this and it's really working for me, and like, maybe you could do this, and maybe it's something that could benefit you. So really being more in alignment with who he is as a person, not necessarily what he does as a job.
Yeah, I had someone that focused on, when I had financial social media, one of the clients focused on women, and like women in investing. And every Friday she would do a Fab You Shoe Friday, which has nothing to do with financial services or insurance, but she loves shoes. She was the shoe queen. So she would show off her shoe collection and get feedback. And it just created buzz and conversation. And again, people do business with those they know, like, and trust. So again, while that didn't have anything to do with the investing or insurance side of things, she stayed top of mind. She was likable, and when people needed help, they reached out to her.
Yeah, and shoes are expensive, so she had to have been making money to have all those shoes.
Yes, so she certainly was.
Good, whatever she's doing. All right. So let's see, where did I leave off at? For insurance agents and those in the industry attending this webinar who may be thinking, I don't know what my true purpose is, do you have a practical exercise or advice for how they can identify if they are living their purpose?
I think we kind of already answered this one a little bit.
A little bit.
I would go back again and just, again, really kind of think about what makes you happy, what you're passionate about, write those things down, do kind of like a word cloud activity. And that can also help you find your personal brand as well. So I've done that activity when people have been trying to figure out that personal brand. So I think, again, and then what's important to you? Like I said, when I was traveling, I was feeling a little lost at first and without purpose. And, thinking, okay, what are the core things that are important to me? And at the time, it was my health and learning new skills. So that helped guide our year sabbatical.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then what about challenges? Challenging aspects of living your purpose for your business and life. What things have you come up against?
Distractions, things that kind of knock you off off your course.
Yeah.
And I mean, nothing's ever easy, right? I think the biggest thing is self-awareness. Any sort of kind of like training you do on like self-improvement, meditation, all of it goes back to that self-awareness and helping you realize that, 90% of it is in your head.
Yes.
And you can't control like anything that's happening around you. All you can really control is your reaction to it.
Yes.
And sometimes when you get thrown off your course, you get caught up in, blaming things or feeling down on yourself or having bad luck. No, none of that is real.
Right.
So reminding yourself that you are in control and that like ultimately you kind of can, it's up to you to choose which path you take and how you react to it. So, I mean, yeah, I'd love to think that I have this rosy life and everything is wonderful. Like, no, like I've been depressed. I've, been in tough situations, but you can't get stuck there. And that's where you just have to realize and snap out of it and take back control and get realigned. And things that help me realign is when I travel and I take an international trip. That's like one trigger I know that helps me recenter. So just kind of like over the years, I'm sure you've learned different things. I mean, you haven't made it this far in your career and been this successful if you stay down every time the situation gets tough.
Definitely.
So having that self-awareness of what helps dig you out of it. Is it just sitting down and quieting your mind and meditating for 10 minutes? Is it I mean, that's a big one. A lot of times if I'm feeling overwhelmed and I've got all these things to do, I'm like, okay, I'll go sit in my little chair over there. And I'll take a deep breath and just kind of like meditate just for 5 minutes to just quiet my mind, refocus, and start to prioritize tasks.
Yeah.
And that really
that's awesome. And I think it goes back to, again, that what can I learn from this versus why is this happening to me? Right? Yeah. Because I mean, things will throw you off. You could be thrown off like all the time, it can happen daily. So sometimes taking an international trip every time it happens isn't necessarily
Exactly.
Although we would love to do that. That would be amazing.
No one's traveling right now though.
So what does your daily practice look like? For example, what structures do you have in place to stay connected and focused and really centered?
So I'm still kind of working on kind of getting my new schedule in place and things like that. But what's been helping, and again, it changes. That's the thing, is there's not any silver bullet that's perfect for everything. It's what's right for you. So for me, I've kind of been setting up my day early, and I found that my calendar just gets crazy starting at like 8:30 or 9. So if I want to get anything done, I need to get started before then. So I'll usually kind of start earlier at like 6:30 or so. And it's more, I just personally with where I'm right now and in my position at Merkle, I use the mornings to read through industry news, to skim through LinkedIn, to engage, any emails that require more thinking. I try to get out in the morning versus just responses. I also make a point to have some sort of activity every day. That's another thing I've noticed. At times in my life when I'm happier, it's because I'm exercising regularly. At times that I'm depressed, it's because I'm not having much activity in my life.
Yeah.
So always try to get out for either a walk or do, everything's around the house these days, do like a yoga course or something like that. So exercise is a big part of the day. And then again, just having some appreciation too, reflection on what's gone well that day, what's going well overall, and reminding yourself. I know a handful of people on the call, and I imagine the other ones on the call as well. When you're an overachiever, you're really hard on yourself.
Yes.
And you need to sometimes just acknowledge the good things and the hard work you've done, and instead of having this negativity and beating yourself up that the presentation could have gone better, you made this small mistake here, just kind of acknowledge that things went well, and having that appreciation. I did a gratitude journal. That was like part of my thing at one point.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention, is like having a gratitude practice, like at night before you go to bed, maybe list a couple, 2-3 things you were grateful for that day. And when you wake up in the morning, list a few things you're grateful for. So that could be like a really great way to get started. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. And then what about your vision and hope for people in the insurance and financial industry?
Be authentic, be yourselves. I think, so many people get into the business for the right reasons and, wanting to help other people with their financial goals, but then they kind of get caught up in the rat race and, looking for that next shiny object or the silver bullet that's going to like solve all the problems, going to be like the quick, solution to getting leads or like closing new business. Really just kind of go back to yourself and what brought you here to begin with, and amplify that message. Again, stick with your purpose, find and focus on that, and you're going to find the right clients. Not everyone is the right client, and you should be chasing everybody. So focus on the right people, and when you're in alignment again with kind of your purpose and your passions, again, it's just amazing how things click and come together, and you'll find that good things happen. And again, I see a lot of people on this call that I know and are successful in their careers and things like this. Luck isn't like this thing that just happens. Like, people make their own luck by just putting good out into the world, following their heart, doing the right thing. And when you do that, it's amazing how, again, things just come together and work. And don't be chasing things because that's what the agent next door is doing. Like, just because it works for that person doesn't mean it's going to be your path.
Right. Yeah, totally agree with that. And then last question we've got is any concluding thoughts, books, resources that you would recommend to the audience about this topic?
Yeah, a couple things I'd recommend. So you would ask about what my routine is like. Admittedly, I am not a very organized person. I love the thought of being organized. I love the idea of it. But actually, you're laughing because
Well, because I'm over-organized.
And you tend to be on that side. That's why we complement each other well. So surround yourself with people like Stephani that can keep you organized and on track. But also a tool Panda Planner. This sounds really strange, but it's kind of like a calendar organizing thing. That has been very helpful for me to kind of prioritize things by week, month, and also kind of aligning with some of those core values that you have. So Panda Planner is a resource that I would check out. There's a couple other ones that are similar. If you just go on Amazon and type in Panda Planner, I think Legacy Planner is another one, but they're like similar type planners that aren't just your typical like calendar. Some of them even have little gratitude journals that you start out the week or the day with that are very helpful. Another tool that I found to be very helpful is Landmark Forum. So that's kind of a training course and self-development course that you can go through in a weekend. and it really helps you in unexpected ways. I went there to focus on my business and kind of learn some like leadership tactics, and it ended up kind of like peeling away all of these like personal things that were holding me back in my life that I was unaware of. But it was really just really a great tool for me to remember that I am in control, and the conversations that are happening in my head, like I can control those. I can't control what's happening around me, but I can control the way in which I react. And it helps you get away from those stories of, you know, this person did this intentionally to me, or that's the reason that happened. That's not the reason that happened. Like that's what you're telling yourself is the reason.
Power.
Exactly. So you have the power of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are a couple of resources I recommend.
Great. Yeah, Landmark is definitely transformative. It is a tool amongst many tools that can help. You know, it's just a matter of finding the tools that work for you and that are going to resonate with what you're looking for.
Absolutely. So. And Landmark is, they're all the same. Like they're like I've read a whole bunch of books, or like The Secret is like another one, but it all goes back to it being you and being in control. It's kind of in your head, but they all talk about the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then talking about resources, in the back of the guide that we're going to be sending out, there is a list of resources too, like blogs, articles, books, documentaries. So each of the guides that we put together have a list of resources. So you guys will all be getting that as well in the next day or so. All right, so that is it. I love that we had this conversation. I appreciate you so much, and thank you for being here and sharing with everybody. I really, really love this.
Absolutely. This was a lot of fun. Like I said, it's a little bit of a different angle than I've ever spoke about and kind of opened up about these things, but this is really important stuff, and the things that really differentiate you from others out there in your career path. And I think it's phenomenal you've put together this series, Stephanie, and are bringing this to the industry.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So, all right, with that, concluding remarks here, we hope that you guys all enjoyed the session today. I certainly did. And we are going to, like I said, send out the follow-up email. We are also doing our next webinar, which is about building community and the importance of community. That is scheduled for January 12th, but we might be pushing it out a week or so. So we'll keep you guys all posted on that. We'd love for you to join that webinar. And it is actually the 8th in our series. So it is the conclusion of it. Also, if you do not follow us on social media, follow us at The Annuity Consultants on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and on Instagram for more updates. All right. Thanks so much for attending today. I appreciate you guys and your time. And I am going to sign off and say bye, Amy. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.